this is Tan. Welcome to another NFL podcast. Today, I'm going to be doing my quarterback rankings. This is kind of going into next season. Where do I have all these quarterbacks here? And I do have every starter and then a couple of notable backups here that I wanted to kind of mention about where do I think some of these guys rank here. And this is based off last season, but there's also stuff in the past couple of seasons. And the way I went about this is I have these guys separated into tiers. So I'm going to kind of reveal them one tier at a time. Where do I have them? And that way you can kind of get a grouping of these players. And again, this is just not, this is my opinion. It's not the right opinion. So if you have a different opinion, that's totally okay. And let's get into it with tier one, which I call the fabulous five here. And that is Patrick Mahomes of the Chiefs, Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills, Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals, Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens, and Matthew Stafford of the LA Rams. So the reason I have Mahomes one is yes, Mahomes' play has been down the past couple of years, but he's the NFL quarterback that I think kind of has all the things you want. He has the Super Bowl, he has the MVP, he has the great play, and he has the age. If Matthew Stafford was a bit younger, if he was around the age of Mahomes, he would probably honestly be one or even two on this list to be 100% real. But Stafford up there in age is the reason he is fifth. But Stafford, though, is still incredible. His no look passes, his ability to read the field. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl, and Stafford played really good against that defense three times this year. He played very exceptional football. And like I said, Mahomes has it all. Yes, his play's been a bit down over the past couple seasons. Yes, you want to see how it improves, but I think Mahomes, you know about the crazy plays, but I think he's really good in the pocket. His ability to diagnose defenses. I think his IQ is the one thing about his game that I think gets constantly underrated. And then that leaves Allen, Burrow, and Jackson. And each of these guys have a different claim to fame. You have Joe Burrow, who's been to a Super Bowl. Lamar and Allen have not. Allen and Lamar both have MVP. Lamar has two MVPs compared to Josh Allen's one. Joe Burrow has none. And you could say, why is Lamar not second? But then you say, well, Josh Allen actually has performed better in the playoffs. But then you say, well, Joe Burrow's been to the Super Bowl. Then you say Allen has MVP. And you kind of get in this cycle, right? All three of these guys are really good at different things. Lamar is excellent in the pocket in terms of navigating it. His ability to, extend the play of running. His quick release is amazing. Joe Burrow is probably the best quarterback in terms of just in the pocket, diagnosing defenses, being accurate. And Josh Allen is so hard to defend with his arm, his strength, all of that. So I ended up just kind of ranking them based off last name. That was kind of my initial thought, but I would probably have them in this order thinking about it. I think Allen is second. I think that when it's all said and done, he's really hard to defend, and I think he's played very well in the playoffs overall in his career. Joe Burrow's been to a Super Bowl, but I think Burrow the past couple of years just kind of has some weird dud games at times. And then Lamar, I love Lamar as a Ravens fan, but you do think that sometimes Lamar could be better with the postseason, right? That is just something that he has to improve. But I do think all of these quarterbacks in this tier are fabulous. They're up here on the list for a reason. They are the five best QBs in the NFL, and they are in tier one. And I'm interested to see how this tier evolves over the years. Right? Could someone in tier two get to tier one? Let's see. So tier two, I have, and has elite elements, and that is um, an interesting list here. So we have Justin Herbert of the LA Chargers, Drake May of the New England Patriots, Jane Daniels of the Washington Commanders, Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles, and Sam Darnold of the Seattle Seahawks here. Very kind of interesting list of quarterbacks in some different areas of their career. So why do I have them here? So the way I define this list is I think there's times where these quarterbacks you could say are equal or even better than the guys above them, but there are some things holding them back. And starting off with Justin Herbert, did not know where to have Herbert, but I have him at quarterback six, and here's why. Yes, was he bad in the playoffs this year? Yeah, he was bad in the playoffs this year, but he didn't have an offensive line really. There's a lot of other issues, and I think Herbert had a lot of big wins this year. He beat the Chiefs in the first game of the regular season in Brazil. That's impressive. He has some other great performances. He has such a great deep ball. Like his rocket arm and his just ability to stretch the ball is, I think, very equal or close to that of Mahomes and Allen. So that's his elite elements. I think also this year we saw a bit of mobility in Herbert's game, which was really nice to see. You like to see him kind of extending the play. So there's a lot of times where Herbert will play on the level of these other guys. It's just I think there's times where trying to has to piece it together. I think one thing that the tier one guys do very well, and you really see this in Allen Mahomes, is yes, they can have those highlight plays, but Allen and Mahomes can be very well composed. They can seem calm. They can seem okay, just going, scanning the field. Where sometimes Herbert seems a bit frantic. That's the word I would use. So I think if Herbert reels that in, he could go up a tier. Honestly, if he had a better postseason, you could probably put him in tier one. But I have him here tier two, and I originally had him at the end of the list, and I had him a tier below. But I think Herbert played really well this year. Yeah, there's some disappointing moments, but when he's on it, he's on it. And then you have at 7 and 8, you have Drake May and Jaden Daniels, and I think Drake May and Jaden Daniels are kind of equal, is where I have them. Where they were both in the same draft class, so both have had 2 seasons in the NFL. One of them had a bad year or ant year. One of them had a really good year. Drake May's rookie year and Jaden Daniels' second year were both mediocre. Or they showed flashes, but they were okay. But Jaden Daniels' rookie year and Drake May's sophomore year were both excellent. Both of them were MVP level players. So it's like, where do you put them? Both of them ended their really good seasons on some kind of playoff terms. Jaden Daniels, his amazing rookie season ended losing in the NFC Championship game to the Eagles. Drake May's awesome sophomore year ended losing to the Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl. So it's like, where do you put them? And I thought this was fair because honestly, Drake May could have been 2-1, but he did not play that great in the Super Bowl or in the playoffs as a whole. He had some good flashes in the other games. I still stand by that. I think in the Chargers and Texans games, Drake May played well enough to win, but the Broncos and Seahawks, he could have been a lot better. But with May and Daniels, I think this is fair because they had, they were able to go far in the playoffs. Jane Daniels took the Commanders to the NFC Championship game last year. That was an incredible feat. That was a team that, I projected to win like 7, 8 games, and they're in, 1 game away from the Super Bowl. And Daniels is really good at extending the play, his ability to be agile. I think he's a really good passer. And then Drake May, his ability to, extend on the run, be tough in the pocket. He's really good at throwing down the field. That's something that really stood out to me. They both have these great traits. They both have these elite elements. So I put them here because I'll see how next year goes. I don't want to be super low on Jane Daniels, and then Jane Daniels next year is great, and I, kind of look weird for putting him too low. But I also didn't want to overrate Drake May, and then next year he's pretty good, and then I look weird for overrating him. So I put them next to each other. And I think next year is going to be a big deciding factor of where do these quarterbacks go. Can these guys get in the tier above them? I think so. But they have to work on it, being consistent, and we'll see where things happen. But yeah, they've done a lot of good. And then Jalen Hurts and Sam Darnold at 9 and 10. Both of these guys are kind of similar for me as well, where I think that they have really elevated their games in the postseason, but at times you want to see it better than in the regular season. I think more so Hurts than Darnold. Like Jalen Hurts is really interesting because last year I had him at number 6. He had just beaten Mahomes in the Super Bowl, and Jalen Hurts' 2 best games are the Super Bowls, 2022 and 2024, and he played really good in those games. Like, he played, honestly, A-tier quarterbacking. I will stand by that. I think Jalen Hurts in both Super Bowls played awesome. Yes, he had a great supporting cast, but that doesn't mean you automatically win. I thought he played awesome in the Super Bowl. But you also have regular season games where Hurts doesn't play that well. You look at games this year. Look at the Bears game. You look at, the Bills game. You look at in the playoffs against the Niners. There's just a lot of examples of Hurts not playing well. But then he plays really good in the Super Bowl. So it's just weird because in the regular season, Hurts can be sometimes. But then in the big stages, he's great. And then, so I have him here on tier 2 because I think he has that elite element to just elevate in the big game. I think that's something that's very special here. But you want to see him get better in the regular season. And I'm giving him kind of a bit of grace here. This was not the best season from Hurts. And I think if next year is a bad year from him, we need to have some serious conversations. He might be a tier 3 or tier 4 guy, but here I have tier 2 just because of that. But that Super Bowl is going to seem more and more removed the farther we get away from it, right? So does the new OC help? Does all this stuff help? We'll see. And then Sam Darnold here was really excellent this regular season. Played solid in the Super Bowl, right? He had that nice touchdown throw to A.J. Barner. Had some other great throws. He had the Cooper Kupp one on the sideline here. I think with Darnold, with Hurts, like Darnold is better in the regular season, but he's a bit more turnover prone. It's kind of interesting. Darnold will push the ball down the field more. They'll get more turnovers. Hurts will be sometimes a bit more safe. We don't get those explosives as much. So they're very kind of contrasting with one another. The reason I have Darnold behind Hurts is because Darnold last year with the Vikings did not play well in the playoffs. But Darnold, his awesome game in the NFC title game, winning the Super Bowl, making some good throws against a great Patriots defense, does land him in tier two. So that's tier two, a very interesting tier, but one I think that does make sense. Then tier three, we have keep you in playoff talk. Keeps you in playoff talk. So I think all these guys here, when they're on your team, they give you a good shot at being in the postseason. Yes, part of this is due to the fact that they're on pretty good teams, but I think that they have great abilities to kind of keep you in there. Starting off with Jordan Love, I almost had Jordan Love in tier two. The reason I don't is because sometimes he just has a really bad pick, and sometimes he just is a bit too aggressive. But he has a great deep ball. I think his accuracy can be really good at times. When he makes the right decisions, it's really good stuff. I'm not the first one to say this, but he's almost like a mix of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. And you see that in his game. Sometimes he's really good down the field. Sometimes he's a bit too aggressive like Favre, but he has that beautiful ball placement like Rodgers. Then he has a great deep ball throwing of Favre, and then some of the way he throws looks like Aaron Rodgers. It's very interesting how that's just kind of happened. But yeah, you just want to see him kind of sometimes have some better decision making. But Jordan Love, I mean, he's still impressive where the Packers move on from Aaron Rodgers, and Jordan Love's been in the playoffs for 3 straight seasons. And yes, the Packers have been a very nice team. You have a great coach in Matt LaFleur. They've had good weapons around him, but still, I think that's impressive that he's been in the playoff 3 straight years. You got to give credit to Jordan Love there. Then you have Dak Prescott here, who comes in as quarterback 12 on this list. And I think Dak Prescott, there's some impressive stuff about Dak, and I might just lean more positive towards him because it feels like everyone just really craps on Dak, really just is not a big fan of him. I think with Dak here, there's a couple things to like. First of all, the fact that we're going to the 2026 season and he's still on the same team. He's the only quarterback to be the starter. 10 years ago, he was drafted in 2016 and he'll be the starter in 2026. That is a very impressive thing here for Dak Prescott. I think that's a very, very good accomplishment for him. I also think, too, he's very good cerebrally in the NFL. I think his ability to read defenses is great. He's pretty accurate overall, especially down the field. You saw that this year with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. He seems like a great leader. There's a lot of stuff to like about Dak, and I could see time being kind to him, where 10, 15 years from now, Dak is retired, and we talk about him higher than we do now just because of how many good yardage and numbers he can put up. So why is he not higher? Is it the playoff thing? Yes and no. Yeah, you would like to see him better in the playoffs, but I don't think he's been terrible. I just think sometimes he gets way too aggressive, sometimes with reading the field, and he'll have some weird off games. Like this year, he has some awesome performances. But then you have a game like the Cardinals on Monday night where he just kind of doesn't look like himself. And he's just had that throughout his career. He'll just sometimes have bad games at really weird moments. But there's still a lot to like about Dak. And he can also scramble a bit as well. The reason Dak's not higher also is I don't think there's one elite element he has, but he just does everything very well. And then you have Brock Purdy here for the Niners at 13, right? Makes sense here. I think the thing with Brock Purdy is that you like his ability to extend the play. I think that, sometimes he gets a bit too aggressive, very similar to Dak, but I think also that he is someone that just creates very well. He always looks for the play to continue. I think that's something that's very impressive about him. With Purdy on your team, the play is never done really until it is. I also think, too, he's pretty accurate, especially, in the middle area of the field. I also think, too, like he has a good arm. Is it super strong? No, but can he, put the ball in some tight windows? Yeah. Can he do some, good things there? Yeah. I think overall he is someone that is good at, running the Niners offense. And yes, there's great players there, but I think his ability to drop back, make good decisions, and then you have that scrambling ability, and not just so much running, but sometimes he'll dance in the pocket, avoiding defenders. Pew. Then he finds George Kittle for a touchdown. Like, wow, he's done that time and time again. So I think that's just a really great trait about Brock. And, the Niners here were kind of going through quarterbacks early in the Kyle Shanahan cycle. I think Brock Purdy is a guy that's going to be here 4 or 5 years. Is he going to be a Hall of Famer? Probably not. but he's going to be someone that keeps you in that contending cycle. And the Niners are too. They've lost players. Deebo Samuel left the team last year. Brandon Ayuk's probably going to leave the team. Stuff has been going on. Yet Purdy's done a good job of helping them be in the playoff talk. They have Bo Nix. Yeah, I have Bo Nix here. I think Bo Nix and Brock Purdy are very similar profiles. Very good at creating inside the pocket. There's a bit of play extending. They're also good passers as well. I think with Nix, he has a lot more sharpness to his ball. I think sometimes with him, though, he'll have his decision makings, I think, a bit lower than Purdy's, but I think sometimes his arm is a bit better. But yeah, it's just all to like about Bo Nix. And he's someone here who has that good moxie about him. He seems like a fighter. It seems like in games he'll kind of keep you in there. And I think this season, he really arose to the occasion. I mean, he beat Mahomes and the Chiefs. He beat the Cowboys at home earlier this year. He led a comeback against the Giants. He beat the Eagles in Philadelphia. Bo Nix had a very impressive season here, and he did a lot of things very well. I think he just is someone who, like Purdy, the play's not done until he says it is, if you will. I just do think you want to see more consistency from him. But yeah, I've been impressed with Bo Nix. Then you have Jared Goff. And I didn't know where to kind of put Goff here because Goff, I think, is very good at running an offense from the pocket. The play action game, he has a really nice arm. He can hit all the throws you want on the field pretty much. That's something I think underrated about Goff's game. I think sometimes, in the NFL, you think, oh, every quarterback can make every throw completion, but that's not the case. And there's a lot of stuff that Goff does well, even like the short and middle of the field. Yeah, he's great down the field. I don't ignore that, but he's good in kind of the middle area of the field in some tight windows that, he makes it look easy. And I think that's a good part of Goff's game. I do think, though, where I'm just low on him is his lack of mobility and extending the play. He really struggles with that. And I think there's times where it catches up to him. And I think we've seen that. However, ever since Jared Goff's been in the NFL, he's been a captain of great offenses, whether it be of the Rams, the Lions now, and I think he's someone that makes sense here as quarterback 15, right? That's a bit above 16, which is, there's 32 teams, 16 is half, so he's a bit above half. I think that's very fair for Jared Goff. But yeah, that's why I have him. I was very, I had him lower, but I'm like, you know what, I'll have him higher and whatnot. So that's tier 3. Then tier 4, we have hot or cold. This tier is basically guys who I think just need to reel things in a bit more. You have Caleb Williams on the Chicago Bears, Trevor Lawrence on the Jacksonville Jaguars, Baker Mayfield on the Bucks, Aaron Rodgers on the Steelers, and Kyle Murray on the Cardinals. And these guys this year kind of more like, okay, they're either playing really good or, ooh, there's some things they need to work on. And you can say about the guys above them, but it really feels like they kind of fit this tier. And there's moments where like these guys could be tier 2, tier 1 quarterbacks, and other times where, like I said, things could have been better. Starting off with Caleb Williams, I think you feel good at the end of the season. I mean, him beating the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs, that's going to be forever an iconic moment, right? That moment, as well as beating them in the regular season. I mean, Caleb Williams beating the Packers twice, I mean, that's just going to be stuff that goes down in Bears history. It is. And a lot of the great stuff Caleb Williams had were awesome heroics this season. It was incredible, right? But I do think sometimes you want to kind of see things be a bit more in rhythm for him. He'll just sometimes have these weird misses where he kind of just looks over the field and says, oh, he missed that. But then he'll make this incredible down the field play. It's like, okay, it's kind of it's this weird thing here with him in that sense. And there's times where in games he'll like start off cold and then he'll get really hot. And you just want to see him kind of get more consistent playing in the NFL. But when he's great, he's really good. I think one thing about him that's good overall is that his turnovers I don't see as a big issue. I know he had some, I know he had the interception in the Rams game in the divisional round to end the Bears season. I know people have really gone on with him, or gone after him with that. And yeah, that wasn't great. But for a big arm guy, a guy who can really be aggressive, be going down the field, be a play extender here, I thought he did a pretty good job of controlling the ball and not having too many turnovers or dumb decisions, for lack of a better word. I think with Caleb Williams, it's just more of kind of reining things in, right? Especially kind of on some of the rhythm throws that Ben Johnson, his head coach, will dial up. That's just something I want to see him improve on. It's interesting because Caleb Williams can hit a 40-yard pass down the field and make it look beautiful, but he'll struggle with a 10-yard out. what? So you just want to see him improve, but still, a lot of praise for Caleb Williams here. Then you have, and he's quarterback 16, and that feels fair. And speaking of 16, is Trevor Lawrence. Now, I was debating about Lawrence or Williams. You could argue, honestly, here. I'm just having Caleb Williams because of that Packers playoff win, or that the Bears playoff win against the Packers. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence here is next. I think there's a lot to like about Lawrence. I think he's good from the pocket. I think he has the arm, the accuracies. But this season, it was really weird because during the end of it, he was on a heater. I mean, he played really great for 6 straight games, helped the Jaguars win, the AFC South, get into the playoffs. I mean, that was awesome. But then he also had some moments earlier this season where it's just, oh, and I think sometimes he's a bit more turnover prone. Sometimes he'll miss a read. I think sometimes with Lawrence, and I almost had this name for the tier is understanding the rhythm of the game. Sometimes he'll be too aggressive when he should have not done that, or he goes deep when he should have gone short. Like I think that's one thing he can improve on. But he had Liam Cohen. I'm very excited for them to be working in the future. Head coach Liam Cohen did a great job, and I'm very excited for that. So Trevor Lawrence here. This feels fair about him being QB 17. I know you could argue that he played very good down the stretch, and he should be higher. I do understand that, but he did have some early season kind of blemishes, if you will. And then Baker Mayfield's pretty much the opposite, right? The other or another Florida quarterback where Baker started off the season amazing. I mean, wow, he was fantastic. He was extending the play. He was, running very well. He was throwing down the field. It was like great. He was making all these aggressive throws. It was just awesome. He looked like an MVP candidate. The Bucks looked like they could be in a Super Bowl. And then things kind of just fell apart in the second half. And I think part of that is due to an injury. But sometimes Baker just gets, like he gets on these heaters, and it's just hard for him to kind of, you know, go back. And I think one thing with Mayfield is that he's really good at times at hitting a really great deep throw up the seam, up the middle of the field. And it's like, wow, just the way the ball comes out of his hands, it can look beautiful. I think that Seahawks game this year, it was really great stuff. I mean, they beat the Seahawks, the Bucks too early this year. Baker Mayfield was awesome. But then you have some moments where it feels like he thinks he can hit that play every time, and then that's where the interceptions start to come in. That's how you get the Rams game this year on Sunday Night Football, where he didn't play that well, or other games like the Dolphins where he thinks he can hit that play, but you don't do it all the time, right? And I just think it's understanding that. And this is what happened early in his career with the Browns, right? Where Baker Mayfield's on the Browns and he just gets too aggressive. And I think Baker's game, he plays very well in rhythm. He's really good in the medium area of the field, the short game, the play action. And I think sometimes he tries to make the touchdown play every play, but that's just not how you should do it. So that's my main thing with Baker. It's really tough because I really thought he was on an awesome trajectory this season, but things just kind of flattened at the end. But we'll see where things can go next year. I still do like Baker Mayfield, though. Then you have Aaron Rodgers, right? The veteran here. Rodgers really fits this tier, honestly, perfectly. He had some games this year where it's like, dang, Rodgers still has it in him. You look at the duel against Joe Flacco on prime time. You had the Dolphins game again on prime time. I thought he played very well against a good Vikings defense. I thought there was just a lot of good moments with him against the Lions this year. But he also had some games like against the Texans, the Chargers, where things with Rodgers, you do want to see him be better. I think with him, he's really good at throwing the football. Like he can hit all 3 areas of the field. He's been in the NFL for a while, so he knows these different defenses. He knows what to read and react to. I just think with him, that play extension that he had in his prime is just not there, and that's unfortunate to see. That he can't do that as much, and when pressure gets to him, sometimes things they don't go well, right? So that is part of it. Also, think too sometimes Aaron Rodgers, not that he's a one read quarterback, he's far from it. I mean, he can make pretty much every read you want to, but sometimes like he'll be like, I'm going to this guy. This is my guy. Look at the Browns game, right? That the Steelers lost because he was targeting, the same guy in the end zone. What was it? Allen Lazard, in the end zone like 3 times. Like sometimes he'll just kind of get his eyes locked in. But there's a lot to like about Rodgers, and I do have him on the Steelers because I do think he is coming back next season. I do think that was kind of somewhat confirmed with the Mike McCarthy hiring for the Steelers as their head coach. If he doesn't, then Rodgers had an awesome career, Hall of Famer, right? I have him as what? I think the 7th best quarterback of all time. But Rodgers in his state now, I have him as tier 4. And it's still just fun to watch him in the NFL. Like, He is still one of those guys that just is very fun to watch him play, and I'm glad he had a good year with the Steelers. Then you had Kyle Murray in the Cardinals. It's very interesting with Kyle Murray because it reminds me a lot of early year Matthew Stafford, where Stafford had a lot of great physical traits, but Stafford was kind of a tier below a couple of guys. When Stafford was with the Lions in like 2014 and 15, then you see Stafford go to the Rams, a situation that really helps him, and Matthew Stafford just won MVP. And it feels like with Kyle Murray, it wouldn't shock me in 10 years if Kyle Murray's an MVP and he's turned his career around. His ability to extend the play is great. I think he has a very good deep ball. I think he's very accurate. There's just times where it's just the rhythm of the game, and would like to see him do a couple things better. But could he go to a different situation? Could things improve for him? Yeah. So very interested to see what happens with Kyle Murray. Then rounding out, we still have a couple more tiers. Then we have the next tier, which is can extend the play. So we're gonna do something different. We have 5A and 5B here. So both of these quarterbacks here, we have another group of 10. I think they're all kind of in this tier of good quarterbacks. They have stuff they could be better at their games, but it's kind of who do you want, right? Because I think the tier above, they can extend the play. The guys below them are better at kind of executing the X's and O's. It's 5A and 5B. So I think they're in the same tier. It's just who do you want? I think in the NFL today, you really look at guys who can extend the play. So that's why I have them higher. But let's go through them. So CJ Stroud of the Houston Texans, he needs to get better. He really does. That playoffs was very ugly for him. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was ugly. And yeah, that's not great. However, with CJ Stroud, I think that you still like. I still like a lot of his game. I thought he had a really nice regular season. He's good off the play action. I remember against the Cardinals so vividly. In Houston, he's extending the play. He's running. He's keeping his eyes. Boom, fires in the end zone touchdown. Like he has that here. He's someone I do think has some of that play extension. He just needs to sometimes control it better. Then you have Bryce Young here as well. Bryce Young, again, very similar thing. There's times where Bryce Young looks awesome, and I think in the playoffs against the Panthers, he played very well. However, there's also times here we could be better at, okay, he'll sometimes miss a throw, rush a throw, things like that. But I do think he is someone who does a good job of things are breaking down, let me scramble. I think of that scrambling touchdown against Rams in the playoffs. Then you have Cam Ward. Love the deep arm, and I think there's times where it's like, wow, he played really well this season. It's kind of, there's a game, it was Rams-Titans, I think in week 2, and you had Matthew Stafford versus Cam Ward, and it felt like you were kind of looking at Matthew Stafford now and Matthew Stafford a couple years ago, early career Stafford, where you had, the arm and stuff and just trying to, rail things in, and that's where it feels like Cam Ward is at here. Cam Ward, I think, is someone who you love the physical traits, just how does he do, right, with, the next couple seasons. But I have him here. Then you have Malik Willis in this tier as well. Packers backup, but it seems like he might be a star next year, whether it be for the Dolphins or Cardinals. I think Miami would be a great fit. For Malik Willis, it's interesting with me because I really love Malik Willis coming out. That was a 2022 draft, and I actually had this. The video might still be on my channel. I actually had him as quarterback 1 in that draft class, and I actually had the Giants trading up from Malik Willis, and I really loved Malik Willis coming out of Liberty. I really felt like he could be kind of Lamar Jackson-like. But then things just kind of faltered in Tennessee. Not the best supporting cast. He didn't read the field that well. But then the past years of the Packers, he's been really good. I think the mobility is definitely a thing. He can get to his top speed quickly. He can rush really well. I also think that he's a really nice thrower of the football overall. But part of me does want to see it more in a big sample size. He's played very well in moments. But how much of that is a structure? I just want to see it a bit more when defenses get more tape on him. How does he handle it? But there's a lot to like about Willis. And I was a huge fan of him coming out. And I think that you see a lot of what you like. Or what I liked in his college game. The ability to extend the play, we'll just kind of see where things go. And then I have Jackson Dart here of the New York Giants. Dart had an interesting rookie year. The injuries are a concern. I also do think with Dart that, he did everything well. He extended the play well. He had the arm. He has a good arm. There's a lot to like. I just think sometimes with him, he'll get kind of a bit too aggressive. I see a lot of Baker Mayfield in his game where rambunctious can be the word. It can be rambunctious. Jackson Dart can make an amazing highlight play, but then he'll make a throw and it's like, oof, that wasn't the best decision. But still a lot to like about him. Then you, for executing the playbook, you have Daniel Jones of the Colts. He was playing very well until injury. How did things go? Next year, Jones, thought overall he was accurate down the field. That was very nice to see. Yes, the Colts have a lot of good playmakers, but it wasn't just Daniel Jones hitting, the check down. It was him going down the field. So it was really impressive to see that. And yeah, Tyler Shook of the Saints. I liked a lot of Tyler Shook's game. Again, like Daniel Jones, it wasn't just him hitting the short game. He was really good going down the field. I felt like he did a good job of making tight window throws. I think he has good anticipation. He doesn't really stare down receivers that long. He's able to, get the ball out quickly. And I think Tyler Shook could be a big riser. I could see him kind of in that almost Dak Prescott like career, which I know is crazy to say, but there's a lot to like about him after his rookie campaign. Then you have Kirk Cousins. I do like Kirk Cousins here. I think overall, with him, age and injury, some of the elements of his game have slowed down, but he can do the play action game well. He has a great IQ. I thought he played pretty well during the second half of the season. Just one of those guys who's always been good. I just, dropping back, West Coast offense, play action, good accuracy. There you go. Then you have Mac Jones, very similar sentiment here of the Niners, where when Brock Purdy was injured this year, Jones came in and played very nice. I think sometimes he has trouble pushing the ball down the field and extending the play, but he's good in his system. Him and Kirk Cousins are very, very similar to me. Um, then you have Tyrod Taylor. I thought he played well for the Jets when he did this year. Some things you would like to see be better, but overall he played, I thought, well, and I think he could be like a solid quarterback next season. Then the final tier is just kind of streaking down state. There are some guys I just wanted to mention quickly here that may not be starters or might be, but ultimately, where do I have them going or my thoughts on them? Jacoby Brissett here with the Cardinals. I think sometimes, like for every great throw he has a bad throw. I think that he has a nice arm, but just his ability to read the field, I think you could wish was better. Jameis Winston, we kind of know what Jameis Winston is. He'll make a lot of fun plays. They also have some turnovers. DeAndre AJ McCarthy and Michael Penix. Two quarterbacks who are part of that 2024 draft class. And I'm kind of interested to see where they go. McCarthy, for me, I really liked him coming out of college. I thought that he could be a high upside quarterback. His arm is not as good as I thought, and his play extension is not as good as I thought. So we'll see. My kind of idea is that the Vikings actually trade for Anthony Richardson of the Colts. I think that would be very fun to see. I think that would be really cool. Kevin O'Connell and Anthony Richardson. You look at last year, Vikings Colts. Kevin O'Connell was hugging Anthony Richardson post game. So is there a connection there? Does KOC respect Anthony Richardson? Do the Vikings trade for him? I think that could be very interesting. And yeah, Richardson, great tools, just has to hone it in very much. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Jason McCarthy. But yeah, I thought like coming out of college, he was going to be better at kind of extending the play, kind of be that guy that's like, whoa, maybe almost Baker Mayfield, like I said, rambunctious, but he just hasn't been there. And Michael Penix of the Falcons is a very hard eval because I feel like with Penix, we kind of don't know what to make of him. I think he's somewhat accurate. He has a good arm. He can run, but the NFL speed seems off for him. That's the main takeaway I had with Penix this year. There's times where he'll make a throw and it's like a split second too late or a split second too early. Can he kind of get better at that? We'll see. But you also have the injury kind of question mark. Same with McCarthy. I think those two quarterbacks are very similar. I have Shedeur Sanders here and Geno Smith. I still have hope in both. Smith's a good veteran. I still like his game. I like his ability to, I think, read defenses. Sometimes he's too aggressive, but I do think there's a lot to like. And I like Shedeur. I thought he did fine in a bad situation. I still kind of like his moxie. I still think there's stuff to like. Then you have Joe Flacco here, the backup. He said he wants to go to the Steelers so he can play for all four AFC North teams. I think that would be cool. Then you have Spencer Rattler here. Rattler's a solid backup kind of in this tier where he can maybe be a fringe starter. He's mobile. He has a quick release. Really cannot push the ball down the field that much. His accuracy can be spotty, but I think he's overall solid at, okay. My thing is if the Chiefs need a quarterback for 4 or 5 weeks with Mahomes coming back from the injury, put Rattler in. That's my case for him. And then Justin Fields, you like the mobility. In a sweet with Fields because he has some terrible games this year passing. But he also had some great ones. So it's like, where does he go? And then you have Dylan Gabriel here who can get the ball out quickly, but just you would like to see some things better. But that does everyone here. And I'm going to shrink my face here because that is my complete quarterback tier list. that is it, everyone. Here. Hope you enjoyed it. I thought this would be a really fun thing to do. Let me know what other position you'd like to see. I'm going to do head coach, possibly receiver, possibly edge rusher. But until then, take care, everyone.